Welcome back to Uncivil Law. Today, we've got something prime to dive into. Imagine mixing the drama of a high-stakes court battle with the thrill of Olympic competition and then throw in a dash of internet celebrity chaos. That's right, we're talking about the U.S. Olympic and Paralympics Committee taking on Logan Paul and KSI's Prime Hydration in a legal showdown that's as competitive as Olympic gold. Warm up that pole vault because we're about to springboard into a case that's packed with trademark tension, Olympic-sized egos, and enough legal excitement to make a shot put spin. So here's the scoop on Logan Paul and Prime. The US OPC, the folks who are basically running the Olympics in the US, are suing Logan Paul's Prime Hydration. Why, you ask? Well, it turns out that Logan Paul and KSI decided to slap on some Olympic-themed phrases all over their drinks. Words like Olympic, Olympian, Team USA, and going for gold were splashed over their packaging and online ads like confetti at a victory parade. Now, you might be thinking to yourself, what's the big deal? I'm so glad you asked. Logan Paul and KSI's Prime have stepped into a legal minefield that's about to blow up in their faces. Let's break it down. Trademark law is kind of like a guard dog. It's there to protect brands from being ripped off and to protect the consumer from buying a product based on a false tying or false representation. The US OPC has a pretty tight leash on anything related to the Olympics inside the United States, thanks to US law in something called the Lanham Act and also the Ted Stevens Olympic and Amateur Sports Act. Think of these laws like a couple of watchful hawks circling the sky, ready to swoop down on anyone who tries to mess with their precious Olympic trademarks. Now, the Lanham Act is like that friend who's always got your back in a bar fight. It protects trademarks from being used in a way that could confuse people. Imagine if you walked into a store and saw a drink called Olympic Energy. You might think to yourself as a consumer, hey, that must be some official Olympic stuff. And that's where the problem starts. The Lanham Trademark Act is fundamentally about preventing that type of consumer confusion, so people will know exactly what they're buying and from whom. When it comes to the Olympics, there's also one more act that we must discuss, the Ted Stevens Act. This one is more like a bouncer at an exclusive club. It doesn't just keep out the riffraff, it makes sure only the cool kids, aka the official sponsors, get to use that Olympic name and those Olympic symbols. So when Prime Hydration started throwing around terms like Team USA and Olympic, it was like they were trying to sneak their way into a VIP section without the wristband. And the US OPC, well, they're not having it. Now let's talk about some of Prime Hydration's likely defenses, or at least what they hope will fly in court. First up, in trademark law, there's a thing called fair use. It's the legal equivalent of saying, hey, we're just borrowing it. But here's the kicker. Fair use in trademark law, particularly as it relates to commercial endeavors, is about as tricky to pull off as juggling flaming torches while riding a unicycle. You've got to prove that you weren't just using the trademark as a trademark. An example might be if you were selling an Olympic-sized pool. In that case, you're using the word Olympic to designate the pool size and shape. In this kind of example, the word Olympic might be thought of as nominative fair use. Nominative fair use is like trying to name drop your way into a party. It's like saying, oh yeah, I know the Olympians were cool. But the court's gonna ask, are you really? Or were you really just using their name to try to get some free market share? Prime Hydration could try to argue that they were just referencing the Olympics, not claiming to be officially connected, but good luck with that, especially in this kind of commercial context. All right, let's dive a little bit deeper. Trademark law isn't just about slapping someone's logo on your stuff. It's fundamentally about causing confusion in the marketplace. Picture this. You're at a grocery store and you see a bottle of Prime Hydration with the word Olympic written all over it. Now, if you're like many people, you might think that this drink has something to do with the Olympics in an official context. Maybe it's even endorsed by those top-tier athletes. But in this case, you, the consumer, would be being deceived. It's really just Logan Paul and KSI's Prime cashing in on some of that gold medal vibe. The law in the United States is designed to prevent that kind of trickery. Let's discuss a little bit more of the fundamental law that's in place here, the Lanham Trademark Act. This bad boy isn't just your average trademark law. It's a heavy artillery, ready to launch an all-out assault on anyone who dares to tread into another person's trademark territory. If the US OPC can show that Prime Hydration's use of the Olympic trademark is causing confusion in the marketplace, they've got themselves a solid case. And let's be real, who wouldn't be confused by a drink that claims to be Kevin Durant's Olympic Prime drink? It's like watching a movie trailer and realizing halfway through it that it's actually a commercial for something completely different. But let's pause for just a moment and think about the human side of this. The US OPC isn't just being a trademark bully here. They're protecting something that means a lot to a lot of people. The Olympics are more than just a bunch of sporting events. They're a symbol of unity, of athletes from all over the world coming together to compete at the highest level. So when someone like Prime Hydration comes along and tries to cash in without that permission, it's not just a legal issue, it's a slap in the face to everyone who's trained for years to make it to the Olympics. And that's why the US OPC isn't playing around. They're going after Prime Hydration with everything they've got. They're seeking an injunction to stop the use of the trademark, monetary damages to make up for profits Prime made off the name, and even destruction of any products that infringe their trademarks. It's like bringing down the hammer of Thor on anyone who dares to mess with the Olympic brand. Now, here's where things get even more interesting. Prime Hydration isn't just facing up against the US OPC. As it turns out, the brand is in a whole host of other legal lawsuits. It's like Logan Paul has once again walked into a legal's hornet's nest, and stingers are coming from all directions. From breach of contract claims to allegations of misleading marketing, they're getting hit harder than a boxer in the final round of a championship fight. One of the big lawsuits against Prime Hydration involves a class action lawsuit against so-called forever chemicals that the lawsuit says is found in their drinks. Yeah, you heard right. The allegation is that there are chemicals in these drinks that stick around like an unwanted house guest. The lawsuit is saying that Prime Hydration's product contain these nasty substances, and Prime Hydration has found themselves in a legal battle that could cost them millions. And then there's the case of the disgruntled bottler who claims that Prime Hydration didn't hold up their end of the bargain. They're saying that Prime promised to keep orders coming in, but then pulled the plug when sales start to tank. It's a classic case of he said, she said, but with a lot more money on the line. If the court sides with the bottler, Prime could be on the hook for nearly $68 million. Ouch. Now, for some of you, you might be wondering, how did we get here? How did Logan Paul and KSI, two internet celebrities who built empires on controversy, find themselves tangled up in yet another legal drama? As for Logan Paul, it seems like he enjoys playing that legal game of Jenga, and every lawsuit is another block pulled out from under them. One wrong move, and his whole empire could come crashing down. But of course, let's be real. This isn't Logan Paul's first rodeo. Logan Paul's been in hot water more times than we can count. And KSI is no stranger to controversy either. They've built their brands on pushing the envelope, but this time it looks like they may have pushed a little too far. The question is, can they lawyer their way out of this mess, or are they about to face a legal knockout? And speaking of legal knockouts, let's talk about the US OPC's ace in the hole, the Ted Stevens Act. This isn't just any old law. It's a special US law that gives the Olympic Committee additional protection on all things Olympic and everything associated with it. The Ted Stevens Act is special because it allows the USPC to go after anyone who uses the trademarks without permission, even potentially if there is no consumer confusion. So if you thought that Prime Hydration had a chance on skating on a technicality relating to confusion, think again. The Ted Stevens Act is like a brick wall standing between them and any hope of getting off scot-free. But let's dig a little bit deeper into this special law. The Ted Stevens Act was designed to protect the Olympic brand from being diluted by unauthorized use. Imagine if everyone and their dog could slap the word Olympic on their products. It would be chaos. The brand would lose exclusivity, its prestige, and ultimately, its value. The US OPC is tasked with maintaining that exclusivity, which is why they're so aggressive about going after anyone who tries to infringe on their trademarks. And let's not forget about Rule 40 of the Olympic Charter. This rule is like the strictest hall monitor you've ever met. It controls how athletes and their sponsors can depict themselves in advertising during the Olympics. If you're not an official Olympic sponsor, you better watch your step, or Rule 40 comes down on you like a ton of bricks. And while this rule wasn't specifically mentioned in the lawsuit so far, the timing of the case relating to the Paris Games might suggest it played a role in the US OPC's decision to file the lawsuit when they did. Now let's step back and think about the bigger picture. This isn't just a legal battle between a big organization and a couple of internet celebrities. It's about protecting the integrity of something that's been around in its modern form for over a century. The Olympics are a symbol of excellence, of striving for greatness, of bringing people together from all corners of the globe. When someone tries to profit off that without giving back, it cheapens the whole thing. That's part of the reason why the US OPC is fighting so hard. It's not just about the money, it's also about maintaining the honor and prestige of the Olympic Games. But of course, leave it to Logan Paul and KSI to once again stir up a legal hornet's nest. It's almost like they thrive on this kind of legal drama. Maybe in the end, it's all part of their master plan to keep everyone talking, keep the spotlight on them, no matter what. But here's the thing, when you're playing with legal fire, eventually you get burned. And with the US OPC coming after them with everything they've got, it looks like Logan and KSI might be in for a scorching. So what's the takeaway here? Well, if you're thinking of starting a business and want to use some catchy Olympic-themed phrases, you might want to think twice. The US OPC isn't messing around, and they've got the legal firepower, not to mention the law, to back it up. And as for Prime Hydration, this legal battle is far from over. They've got a long road ahead, and it's going to be anything but smooth. But hey, what do you think? Do you think Prime Hydration's got a chance of coming out on top, or is this just the latest domino in Logan Paul's downfall? Could this lawsuit actually help the brand by keeping them in the headlines, or will it backfire and turn consumers against them? And what about the US OPC? Are they being too aggressive in protecting their trademarks, or is this just the price of doing business? Until next time, I've been Uncivil Law, and remember to keep it uncivil out there.